Hi, this is Mr. Khan from 11 Plus and GCSE Coach. In this video, we're looking at percentages, how to find 1% and 10% of a number without the use of a calculator. Okay, in order for you to find percentages 1 and 10%, you need to know what the methods are. So the ones that are on this screen are some of the common ways of finding basic percentages. So the word percent means out of 100. So to find 10% of a number, all you need to do is divide the amount by 10. And there's a reason for that. Because percent is out of 100, 10% means how many tens there are in 100, and the answer is 10. So that's why you can simply divide the amount by 10 to get 10%. Now, the reason this is important because dividing by 10 is fairly straightforward. All the numbers will shift one place to the right on the place value grid, and the effect of that will be the decimal point will end up one place to the left of wherever the number decimal point is currently. I'll give you examples of that in a few minutes. Okay, that's the 10%. To find 1% of a number, you divide the amount by 100, and the reason for that is, remember, percent means out of 100, so 1% would mean how many ones there are in 100, and the answer is 100. So you divide the amount by 100 to find 1%. So these two are the most important percentages to be able to find: 10% and 1%. So to find 10%, you divide the amount by 10. To find 1%, you divide the amount by 100. Then there are some other common ones which you should be able to find in a straightforward manner. So to find 50%, now 50% means a half, because 50% means 50 out of 100, which means a half. So you simply divide the amount by 2, which will be halving the number. And likewise, to find 25%, you divide the amount by 4. Or there's an alternative way of finding 25%. Find the 50% first, which is by halving it, and then halve that again, because half of 50% is 20%. So you can do that 25% that way, or you can straightforward divide it by 4, whichever way is easier. I personally think halving and halving again is easier. So to find 25%. And on the back of 25% and 50%, you can actually find 75% as well. You simply find the 50% first, and then find the 25% next by halving the number first to find 50%, halving again to find 25%. Add the two together will give you 75%. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, let's get on with some examples. Finding 10% of 500. So remember, we said to find 10%, you simply divide the amount by 10. So in this case, to find 10% of 500, I will take the number 500 and I will simply divide it by 10. Now 500 divided by 10, hopefully you know this already, is equal to 50. So 10% of 500 is 50 pounds. So it's not writing here. 50 pounds. That's 10% of 500. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so try to do this question by yourself and then play the video to see if you get this right. Hopefully you've had a go at this question. So to find 10% of 350, you simply divide 350. So 10% equals to 350. You divide it by 10, and the answer would be 35. So in this case, the answer would be 35 meters. This is not about money, so it'll be 35 meters as your units. Hopefully you got that right. Okay, let's try this question then. Pause the video and have a go at this question. See how you get this. See if you get this right. Hopefully you've had a go at this question. So now I have £479. I need to find 10% of £479. Now, how would I go about doing this? All I need to do is 479 divided by 10. Now, if you haven't seen the video on what happens to a number when you divide it by 10, 100, and 1,000 or 1,000, go and watch that video first. You will understand what I'm going to do next. It will make more sense then. So 479 divided by 10. On a place value grid, what that means is all the digits 9, 7, and 4, they all shift one place to the right. So, for example, if here's a decimal point, I have my units, my tens, my hundreds, my thousands, and on the other side of the decimal point, you have the 1/10th, 100th. It's easier to write as a fraction than writing the word tenth, hundredth. It gets quite long. 1,000, and so on. So this is the place value grid. So the number we have is 479. So 479. So 9's in the units column. So when you divide by 10, this place value grid is known as a base 10 number system. So every digit on the left is 10 times bigger than the digit on the right. So when you're dividing it by 10, you're making it 10 times smaller. So all that means is you're shifting all the digits one unit to the right. So from the units number one place to the right, sorry. So from the units column, the 9 will go one place to the right, which is 1/10. So decimal point is a fixed point. It doesn't change. It always stays there. So the 9 ends up one place to the right over here. So 9 goes over there. 7 from the tens goes one place to the right over there, which is in the units column, and 4 goes one place to the right in the tens column. It comes over here. So the answer is 47.9. Now, so that's the answer to this question. But hopefully you can appreciate that this is actually a very long way of showing the working out for this, to work out dividing a number by 10. So what's the shortcut? Well, the shortcut is the following. 479 divided by 10. Now, the first thing I would ask myself, where is a decimal point in 479? Now, at the moment, you can't see the decimal point because it's a whole number. But if you look at the grid on the right, I've shown you where the decimal point will always be. At the end of whole number, the decimal point comes. It's always at the end of the whole number if it's a whole number. So what happens is your answer was 47.9. So although the digits move, the decimal point never moves. But as a shortcut, we could say, just for the sake of ease, to save time, where's the decimal point? First thing you do is find where the decimal point is, which is at the end of it. When you're dividing it by 10, you could say, I'm moving the decimal point one place to the left. And that's the effect of it. You can see that happening here. Remember, decimal point in reality never moves. But I'm only saying this for the sake of ease, because rather than having to draw the whole thing every time you do a question to understand where it goes. 10, because you're moving one place to the right, so that means the decimal point, the effect of it will be the decimal point seemingly moves one place to the left. So we can actually do that as a little shortcut to make a life easier. So answer will be 47.9. So let's give you another example to make you understand what I'm trying to say. So for example, if I change the color of my pen, let's say I've got 384. I want to find 10% of that. 10% of 384. So again, write down show the decimal point of 384 where the decimal point will be. So if I write here 384, well, because it's a whole number, so the units column will be the 4. After the units column is always the decimal point. So that means the decimal point's over here. So I'm dividing by 10. Instead of me doing all of this for it, I can simply say to you, well, let's get the decimal point and move it one place to the left. Remember, the decimal point never moves in reality, but the effect of it will show up like this. It seems like the decimal point is going one place to the left. So the answer will be 38.4 in that case. Hopefully that made sense. Okay, here's an example question. Pause the video and try this question by yourself and see what you get. Hopefully you've had a go at this question. So the question is 10% of 25.3 centimeters. So remember, to find 10%, you divide it by 10. So all I need to do is get the 25.3 and divide it by 10. Now remember, you can either do all of this to show exactly what's happening, or you can do the little shortcut, which is find where the decimal point is. Now this question is slightly easier for us because we can already see where the decimal point is. It's visible. But the effect is still the same. We're going to shift all the units to one place to the right, all the digits to one place to the right on the place value grid. And the seemingly effect of that will be that the decimal point will move one place to the left. So over here, it will end up over there. It become it will go from there and it'll become 2.53. So 10% of 25.3 is equal to 2.53 centimeters. And I found moving this decimal point with the arrows actually it makes life easier. You can see exactly how many places you're moving, and you remember how to do this as well. So get into the habit of doing that. So that's a quick way of doing it. Just shift the decimal place one place to the left. Okay, let's move on to 1% now. So finding 1% of a number, in this case 1% of 450. So remember we said to find 1% you divide the number by 100. So again, you need to watch the video on what happens to numbers when you divide by 10, 100 or 1000 if you don't know this already. So to find 1% you simply divide by 100. So 450 divided by 100. Now if I was to draw the place value grid like the previous slide, and then I will show you dividing by 100 is dividing by 10, then dividing by 10 again. So what you're doing is you're dividing it by 10 twice, because 10 times 10 is 100. So what that would mean, all the digits will shift two places to the right. Now that could be quite a laborious task to show the decimal, the place value grid and shifting all the numbers two places to the right. Or you could do the shortcut, what we said earlier, which is find the decimal point in 450. Now it's a whole number. If you remember what I said a few minutes ago, the decimal point is always at the end. And then shift it not one place to the right, because that will be dividing it by 10. You divide it by 10, you have to divide it by 10 again. You move actually two places to the, sorry, not to the right, to the left. You move two places to the left. So all the digits will shift two places to the right on the place value grid. And the effect of that would look like that the decimal place has moved two places to the left of the number. So it starts with at the end of the number. So you move two places to the left and you end up with over here. I always make this little dip and go in between the numbers to show that I've moved one place, then the next place over here. The answer will be 4.50, because it's money, you must write the decimal point 2 digits after the decimal point for pennies. So the answer in this case will be £4.50. So to simplify, to summarize what I just said, when you're dividing it by 10, you move one place to the left, the decimal point. But when you're dividing it by 100, you move 2 places to the left. And hopefully you can appreciate when you divide by 1,000, you'll move 3 places to the left. When you divide it by 10,000, you move 4 places to the left, and so on. Because all these numbers are 10, 100,000, 10,000, they're all multiples of 10. As many zeros as you have, that's how many places you're moving. So that's a little shortcut to remember. Anyway, have a go at this question. Pause the video and try it and see if you get this right. Hopefully you've tried this question. So I'm finding 1% of 25 centimeters. Remember, to find 1%, you divide the amount by 100. So I get the 25, I divide it by 100. So remember, the shortcut way is find where the decimal point is, which is at the end of the 5, and move it 2 places to the left, because 100's got 2 zeros in it. It's 10 times 10 twice, so you have to move it 2 places to the left. So one place will be for the 5, and the second place will be before the 2. It ends up over here. Now, when you start a number before a number with a decimal point, that means there are no units. There's no whole numbers left. So in this case, you must show the 0 there. So 0.25 will be the answer in this case. So 1% of 25 centimeters is 0.25 centimeters. Hopefully you got that question right. Some questions for you to try now. So find 1% of 8,621 and 1% of 52.7 centimeters. Pause the video and try these questions, see if you get them right. Hopefully you've had a go at these questions. So the first one is 1% of 8,621. So remember, to find 1%, you divide the amount by 100. So 1% would be, in this case, 8,621 divided by 100. Remember, fractions always mean division. So when I write as a fraction, I'm saying divide basically. So remember again, what happens when you divide by 100? First thing is find the decimal point and then shift it 2 places to the left. This is the shortcut. So anyway, 8621 units is the 1. Decimal point always comes after the units. So over here, units, or some people call it ones, either way. So decimal points after that. So I'll find the decimal point. I'm dividing it by 100. I shifted 2 places to the left. So 1, 2. It ends up between the 6 and the 2. So the answer to this question is 1% of 8,621 is £86 and 21p. And that's the answer to that question. Hopefully you got that right. Okay. Next question is find 1% of 52.7 centimeters. Now this one's slightly easier because I can already see where the decimal point is, but the method is still the same. Divided by 100. So in this case, the decimal point is already visible. So 52.7. I can see the decimal point. I need to move it 2 places to the left because 100 means 10 times 10. So 2 lots of, my pen has stopped working. Okay. So you write 2 places to the left. So in this case, that will be 52.7 becomes 0.527. Hopefully you got that right. Okay. I have no idea why my pen stopped working. Okay, I think it's working now. Okay, so the answer will be moving 2 places to the left. Let's do this one more time. So 52.7, you're moving it 2 places to the left. So 1, 2, it ends up over here. So it starts with the decimal point, so I must add a 0 before it. So the answer to this question will be 0.527 centimeters. Hopefully you got that right. So excuse me about this number here. Okay, so the answer is 0.527 centimeters. Okay, let's move on. Sometimes it won't be as simple as finding 1% or 10%. You might need to increase or decrease the amount by 10% or 1%. Now, what does that mean? So have a look at this question. Increase £540 by 10%. So step number 1 is to find the 10%. So 10% of £540 will be 540 divided by 10. So remember, hopefully by now you are experts at this. You're dividing it by 10 to find the decimal point, and you move it back 1 place. So that becomes, here's a decimal point, move back 1 place here, 54.0, which means just 54. So 10% of 540 is 54. Because I'm increasing it, that means I need to add this amount on to the original number. So in this case, 540 plus the 54. I must add it on because I'm increasing it. So 0 plus 4 is 4. 4 plus 5 is 9. 9. and 5 plus nothing is 5. So the answer to this question is 594. So increasing £540 by 10% is equal to £594. Hopefully that makes sense. Pause the video and try this question yourself. Read the question carefully. It says decrease. So let's see if you get this right. Okay, so hopefully you've had a go at this question. Step number 1, find the actual 10%. So 10% will be 485 divided by 10. Now, the decimal point in 485 is at the end. So 485, I'm going to write it here. Here's a decimal point. I'm going to move it back one place because I'm dividing it by 10. So move it back one place, it becomes 48.5. So the 10% is 48.5. Now I need to decrease by that. So that means I need to do 485 minus 48.5. So hopefully you remember how to add and take away. If you've forgotten it, go back and watch that video, please. All the columns have to line up. So that's my units column. So because the other top number doesn't have anything after the decimal point, so I can put a decimal point there and add a 0 to show that there's nothing there. It's a placeholder. Now, hopefully you remember this. When you're taking away, you can't take away a bigger number from a smaller number. So I need to borrow 1 from the 5. That becomes a 4, and that becomes a 10. 10 take away 5 is 5. I'm left with a 4. So I'll borrow 1 from the 8. That becomes a 7, and 4 becomes 14. 14 take away 8 is 6. The decimal point stays where it is. And then 7 take away 4 is 3. And 4 take away nothing is 4. So the answer to this question is decreasing 485 meters by 10% is 436.5 meters. Hopefully you got that right. Last couple of questions. Increasing, do these questions by yourself if you can. So increase by 1% and decrease by 1%. Hopefully you've had a go at these questions. So first step is to find 1%. So 1% will be 7,460 divided by 100. So find the decimal point in 7,460, which is always at the end because it's a whole number. You move back 2 places, 1, 2, that becomes 74.6. So because it's not money, so I can say 0.6 or you can say 0.60, makes no difference. Because I'm increasing, I need to add it on. So 7460 plus 74. 74 is 7 is tens column, 4 is the unit, 0.6. So 0.0 for the top one to make it easier. 6 plus nothing is 6. 4 plus nothing is 4. Decimal point stays where it is. 6 plus 7 is 13. Carry over the 1. 4 plus 1 is 5. And 7 plus nothing is 7. So the answer to this question will be increasing it by 1% will be 7,534.6 kilometers. Hopefully you got that right. And the last question, 48 millimeters by 1%, decrease it. First thing, find the 1%. So 1% will be 48 divided by 100. You find the decimal point in 48, which is at the end of it, and move it back 2 places, 1, 2. When you start with the decimal point, you must add a 0 before it. So the answer is 1% of 48 is 0.48. Now, because I'm decreasing, I must take it away. So 48 is my number. 0 is the units for the second one, 0.48. You must line up all the columns. This is column method of addition. So I have to put 2 zeros now to add up the to line up the columns. I'm taking away. You could do this mentally as well, but I'm just showing you the written method. I can't take any 8 from 0 because 0 is small, and I can't borrow 1 from the 0 next to it because it's got nothing to give. So I must borrow 1 from the 8, and that becomes a 7, and then now the next 0 becomes a 10. Now that 10 can give 1 away, so that becomes 9, and that becomes 10. 10 take away 8 is 2. 9 take away 4 is 5. There's a decimal point. 7 take away nothing is 7, and 4 take away nothing is 4. So the answer to this question will be 47.52 millimeters. Hopefully you got that right and this makes sense. Thank you for watching.